Okay, so today we are back on a context kick. Well, at least for this particular story. And it's very, very complex. There's definitely some moral and ethical issues that we're going to talk about today. And of course, within all of that is like a lot of nuanced things happening at many different levels. Of course, the nuance is completely lost or missed by whoever is the anonymous reporter that's covering this particular story for an outlet called Stuff in New Zealand. Let me tell you, the headline is probably the most misleading of all, at least the way it's presented here. So let's take a deeper look into a potentially heartbreaking story that actually is full of hope, and one that shows a peek at actions that some may call fascistic. I might be included among them. So let's also not fall for the framing of how the story is presented and navigate what is likely something that we will have to deal with in many forms if we don't start combating it right now. A child, parental wishes, and a court order that changed it all. Here we go. So we're going to start in Auckland, where the story actually takes place, with a headline that I find somewhat troubling. Blood donor case, baby who had heart op against parents' wishes is doing well. Being not from New Zealand, because I'm not, and unfamiliar with the events that surrounded this situation, I was taken aback, because, this is not something that you would normally see here in the States. And to be fair, I think that's kind of the point. I think that's why Mr. Grant Gregory sent the story to me, and I appreciate it. He does a great job editing and, shooting me stories from time to time. And of course, I was left with the same question you have. Why would a family not wish for their baby to have a life-saving surgery? What does a blood donation have to do with any of that? A couple of really good questions. So of course, I read on. And by the way, I did a lot of research outside of this particular story as well. Here we go. A seriously ill baby who had open heart surgery on Friday, just this last week, against the wishes of his parents, is out of the operating theater and doing well, according to the family's lawyer. Why is a lawyer involved? Well, legal guardianship over the medical care of the baby, this particular baby boy, was transferred to doctors at Auckland's Starship Children's Hospital earlier in the week, after a battle that had taken place in the High Court. I was gratified to hear that the baby was doing well, but I needed to read on for more context around the court order and the state taking control of a situation that, I'm quite uncomfortable with a state taking control of most of the time. It seems that it comes down to doctors forcing an issue that otherwise would cause them very little fuss. They wanted the baby to receive blood and blood products from the New Zealand Blood Service during surgery. That didn't seem like a big deal until we get here. The parents wanted the baby to receive direct donations from donors that they had handpicked. People are willing to donate blood for surgery for a baby. Seems reasonable. They didn't want blood from people who have been given recent injections from the pharmaceutical industry that have been somewhat controversial to some people lately. Still, not an unfair request, I would say. And the story at this point was much more clear with what was going on, at least. I think we can all see that. The parents had lined up donors that would provide blood free of a concern that they had to protect their child. They wanted the heart surgery, just not anything that might unexpectedly come along with it. Okay? I would say that you don't know what you're getting sometimes with those situations. So this particular situation went all the way to the High Court. And they, in turn, after supposedly thinking about it, placed the child in their own guardianship. And they gave 2 Starship specialists powers to make medical and surgical decisions for the baby. This was essentially stripping the parents of any decision-making rights over their child, which I'm going to be a little frustrated by. Maybe you are too. Now, the video, which I have from inside the hospital, show the night before the surgery, the police entering the baby's room, where the parents were, and to take him away for surgical prep. Now, the parents were begging and pleading the entire time, saying don't do this, and the father was calling the police there criminals. Not just once, but many, many times.
Not going to allow the baby to sleep or have his pre-op checks before a surgery that's scheduled and that can't be changed. Well, it can be changed.
I think, like, so baby needs as much rest as possible so that he can...
Excuse me, what are you doing?
Yeah. No, don't do that, boys. Hey, don't do it.
Please don't do it.
Hey,
Now we're talking about the surgery.
you guys are criminals. You are criminals. You are conducting a criminal act here.
So with the pre-op test, it needs to happen before the surgery.
Hey,
it won't happen tomorrow.
we've been talking to you like rational people, and now you just remove. You guys are, you are criminals. You.
Oh my god! How can you do this? Oh my gosh.
You
Get
guys-
out of my way! Get out of my way!
Hey,
Get out of
guys,
my way!
move out. Move out the way.
I need to see
You guys are acting like criminals.
We're just...
You are acting like criminals. All of you are criminals.
Hey guys, calm down, please. You need this operation.
You are criminals. You are a criminal. You are a criminal. And you are a criminal. And so are you. And so are you.
Can you guys just give them some space, please?
You are a criminal.
Okay,
You will not be part of the surgery tomorrow. We do not authorise any of that.
I just want to tell you what's happening.
No, we're not listening to what you got to say.
Why did you do that? He's going to be okay.
No, he is not going to be okay.
And we need to take him for his... Okay. We need to take him and we need to do...
You
the
are
workup.
criminals.
You will be able to see him after the surgery.
You
We're gonna
guys
take him
are
to the
criminals.
surgery.
You are going to be recorded in the annals of time as criminals who come in here and take babies from their mothers.
Be able to do their tests.
Do you understand that?
Okay, but
Do you guys are even listening to me? Do you understand that you have just kidnapped a baby from its mother without the consent of their parents? No, you're not.
please,
You're not listening.
you can't do that. I just need to be with him. I will go with him. You can do what you need to do, but I need to be with him because he needs to be with his mother. Please.
Mate, show your humanity.
Please.
Show your manness.
Please. I just need to...
We will talk to the hospital staff, okay? Now,
Hey, what good's that going to do?
Shush. You can't just rip him out of the bed like that, please.
the
Disgusting
hospital
behaviour.
staff has taken the baby for the pre-operation checks, okay?
Yeah.
Against our will.
Shush.
That is in line with the order of the High Court.
So let's skip down to the bottom of this story, all right? See, according to the court minute, which I would imagine would be their records from their court reporter, Gray, that would be the attorney for the parents, claimed that the baby's surgery, which Starship doctors earlier said was a matter of life and death, was no longer urgent. She put forward that a brief that two experts from the United States, pediatric cardiologists who I guess there some renown, John Kupferschmidt and Dr. Kirk Milhone, said that they had reviewed the baby's latest scans and vitals and closely observed him virtually over a Zoom call. Well, it's not really great, way to do things, but I hear you. These two doctors said that the surgery should be delayed by a week to further evaluate other options. And they believe that directed donor blood was a reasonable option for this family. Well, I can see how that's not going to hold a lot of weight. The U.S. Experts being called to weigh in on something that's happening in Auckland, but it is what it is. So the doctors asked for a video call with Justice Galt to discuss their options. Obviously, the justice didn't want to do that. The judge said that Gray's submission was an attempt to reopen the substantive case, which obviously it was. I mean, while he'd already ruled on it, which means, oh well, you lose. It had previously been agreed that the baby needed surgery urgently, he said. So consulting other physicians isn't a good practice? Getting a second opinion? I don't know. I'm going to set that aside. And as I concluded in my judgment, this is Judge Galt, in order enabling the surgery to proceed using NZ blood service blood products without further delay is in the baby's best interest. Now, we're using no names here, so I won't even use the initial that was left in the story. We don't know the names of the parents directly. We don't know the baby's name. That's probably all for the best. Now, of course, there were many protesters involved in various locations throughout this entire process, including the day of the surgery. It's interesting to note that if you are somebody that was trying to stop this from happening and honor the parents' wishes, you were called alt-right by the journalists there. I don't think that's helpful, productive, or probably even accurate. I think they were just trying to, help with what the parents think is in the baby's best interest. Now, there was also an ethics professor that was involved in this along the way, at least somebody who was consulted by the journalists anyway, who weighed in on this and all the issues that surrounded it, stating that people may be less inclined to take their kids to doctors if they feel that they could lose control of decisions around their health. I'm inclined to agree. I think you have a problem here. I guess that's the summation of the story. That's all that we have to tell. So we have some context here, which is important, right? We have some opinions out there as well. And now I want to walk through it because, again, these are complex issues, and I don't think we get informed about the stuff that goes on in the background often enough. This would be, in my estimation, and this is my opinion now, a very slippery slope, or maybe a tipping point. It's possibly a point of no return, which would really, really bother me. People should have the right to elect what and what cannot go into their bodies. I mean, that's like a basic human right. Correct? I mean, that would fall even in civil rights for a certain group of people. Competent parents have always been allowed to choose what is right for their children. They consult usually directly with physicians, more often than not, more than one physician to get second and third opinions oftentimes for the best pursuit of health for their kids. Now, the parents asked for what I would say was a limited accommodation that they had already made significant allowances for. And to be fair, they located blood donors to cover all of the needs here, right? Medical experts actually weighed in, stating that that this was a minor ask and that it could be easily and readily accommodated, which again seems like would be a fair practice. Now, the surgery, I'm going to say it this way, was clearly necessary. It was required to be done urgently, but there seemed to be some debate about if it could have waited a few days, a day or two. It wasn't something that had to be done immediately. There was an argument put forth that perhaps the deterioration of the heart was going to be more aggressive. I can't speak to that. But I do have some questions, and I think these are ones that we should be asking about almost everything, but specifically in this case. What precedent does this set for similar cases going forward? What precedent does it set, if any, for an adult that's in a similar position? Could your rights be taken away? Again, I know this is in Auckland, not here in the United States, or global. I have people watching me in New Zealand. Should people be allowed to choose between somebody who has been inoculated and someone who is not inoculated? Should they be able to choose between what kind of blood that they receive? And again, specific to the recent mass inoculations that have been done globally. In any other way, wouldn't imagine anybody would have objections to that. And this is the biggest one, I think. Who's responsible if the blood given to the child leads to complications in the near or long term? That's an important question, because we've kind of just essentially assigned liability, possibly to the courts, possibly to the doctors, possibly to the law enforcement officers, possibly to other hospital staff. There's some liability there, assuming that kind of control. So at this point, I suspect in that particular matter, all that have been involved in this have placed themselves firmly in the annals of history and perhaps in the crosshairs of that future liability. I fully expect new businesses to start to sprout up around the globe that offer blood services that differentiate between blood that has received certain inoculations and blood that hasn't been. I imagine somebody's going to make quite a tidy sum off of that. I imagine that they'll pay people more for blood that may not have had the inoculations. You can see that happen. And yeah, I know that's very, very cynical in light of this particular story, but it is something that's going to happen, don't you think? And of course, I can't pretend that this doesn't bother me. It does. This is one of those that gets me. It gets me in real close to the feels. It also challenges me intellectually. It seems rather fascistic on the face of it, at least in light of the facts around this case. Certainly, if medical accommodations can be made for religious reasons, this should be a very minor and reasonable ask as well. Look, enough of my thoughts here. I really want to know what yours are. So please use the comment section down below and let me know what you truly think here. I'm curious where you fall on all of the different issues that are associated here. I'm also curious if you'd even heard about this story before, because it's traveled around the globe pretty good, covered in a lot of places, including the New York Post. I just feel like not enough people have seen this. Brings me to another point. Support other independent creators out there. There are a few people that have been talking about this. The video of the parents is actually out there on YouTube and Rumble and other places. This has been getting a little bit of coverage, just not in the mainstream and not in the way it needs to be covered, because obviously that would, cause even more of a fight against some things that are happening right now in the globe. And those independent creators can only grow with your support. So if you are not subscribed to some of the people that you watch, please do so. It's free. Get it done. Also hit the bell icon so you don't miss anything. Those notifications are really important, especially if you're trying to keep up with things and you don't want to miss any of the amazing live streams that some people do from time to time. Obviously, sharing the content is incredibly important. It does create channel growth, as does the comments, which I ask you to do each and every time. And the like button, definitely. We appreciate that as well. And with that, be sure to take care of yourself, take care of others. Wash your hands, of course, because it's good hygiene. And until next time, bye. And don't forget to check out my Rumble at rumble.com/CultureCasino.
Thanks for visiting today. Be sure you're subscribed and hit that for alerts. Yay! Of course, like and share all of the videos that you can, as it helps with the algorithm. Have a great day.